Hey everybody, welcome to the newbie real estate investors of New Jersey. My name is Joey Chan.
I'm Jonathan Boyle, and today we have a special guest, James Park. He started 6 years ago in central New Jersey as a fix and flipper, and now has grown as a developer in central Jersey with his own fund. So he's looking to be one of the top developers throughout central Jersey.
Hey James, welcome to the show. So James, tell us a little bit about your background.
Yeah, so I started investing in real estate probably about a little over 6 years ago. Prior to doing real estate full time, I'm actually a pharmacist. I went and got my MBA, and I was a corporate guy. I worked for a big corporate company in North Jersey and East Hanover, at a drug company, and I was managing a very large portfolio of products. And over time, I had some personal family events that led me to needing more flexibility, and I invested in my first real estate deal with a friend as a JV venture, and I looked at how much money I made, which was like this, and I looked at how much money he made, and I realized that there was a lot of potential. Right around that time, also. I was on a TV show where they actually flipped my own house on HGTV, and I saw that because I didn't think it was that hard. Like, I saw what they were doing, and I'm like, this doesn't seem that hard. And so, being that I was in school for 8 years, you kind of start dissecting to see, like, hey, maybe I can do this myself. And so long story short, I left a very cushy corporate job. Wearing a dress shirt, dress pants, suit, and whatnot, and to do real estate full time. Yeah.
Nice. Okay, so that's how you got into real estate. Tell us a little bit about what that first deal was like for you.
Yeah, so I won't talk about the deal that I JV'd on, but
Okay,
but I'll talk to you a little bit about the deal that I did solo. I was very nervous, naturally, investing in real estate, because I didn't know anything about real estate. I just knew that there was potential, but I had no idea what I was doing. So it just by chance, I got a phone call from somebody that was trying to acquire a property less than 5 minutes from my house, and he didn't want the deal for some reason. I don't know why. And he said, would you be interested? And you can work directly with the seller and purchase it. And I said, well, if I purchase it and I sell it for the number that I want, on the back end, I'll take care of you. And so that was the agreement that we made. And the house was less than 5 minutes from my house. And I literally took a line of credit against my own personal home, took all my savings, and bought this house in cash. And I basically went all in. And at the time, I was very excited, but I didn't realize what I was doing to myself, because if something went wrong, I put my own personal home on the line, right? Yeah. And so, but the rehabilitation went smoothly. I used a local general contractor who did it for a phenomenal price. I think on that deal, I cleared roughly $75,000.
Wow.
And
What was the time frame?
That time frame took a little longer than I wanted to, but it took about, I remember it took about 8 weeks. And this is when I started learning about, well, this is the thing. I started learning about general contractors at that time, because I come from corporate America. So when they say they'll finish in 5 weeks, 6 weeks, 7 weeks, I'm like, okay, you live to those obligations. But specifically for this house, he was delayed. I went on a cruise with my family. I come back to the house and nothing is done, right? 2 weeks and nothing is done in the house. So I learned a lot about general contractors and their behaviors through that project. And but it turned out amazing. We sold the house relatively quickly. And it was my first bona fide deal, and that was when I was hooked. it was like having sugar for the first time. Like I couldn't get enough of it. And so yeah, that's my first deal that I've ever done. Very close by to my house in Edison.
That's
Wow.
nice.
That's crazy, but you definitely touched on something very important that I like to just reiterate to the audience.
Yeah.
How general contractors. This is pretty true for a lot of people in real estate in general,
Yeah.
but general contractors in this example, like they don't typically follow the timeline that they originally say for
Yeah.
one reason or the other.
Yeah.
Whether it be permits, whether it be their guys are out or
Right.
something like that. It's just something you can't necessarily control.
Right.
But from that experience, I guess, what did you take from it as far as what did you do better for the next deal?
Yeah. So I think for the next deal, I started thinking to myself, maybe I can partner with a friend who is a general contractor, and because I can control my friends a little bit better than some guy that I really don't know. So I actually partnered with a friend who was a licensed contractor in New Jersey, and we started doing deals this way together, collaboratively. And we had our own financial agreement, everything was 50-50, etc. And so that was my way of controlling things. But I learned very quickly that I'm a bit of a control freak, and I think this is more on me than it is on him or anybody else I've ever worked with. But I'm a bit of a control freak, and as I was going through the process of rehabbing homes, and at that time we were probably doing like 2 to 3 deals every 6 weeks, and we were just punching them out all over Middlesex County. And I realized at that time, I can probably do this better than even my partner. And so that's when I decided that I'm going to get my own license. And I was very surprised that there's relatively low barrier of entry to get your own license in New Jersey. I just fill out a piece of paper and you just sign your name and you're pretty much
And get insurance.
and get insurance and you're licensed. And so that's what I did. And I learned construction. I'm a pharmacist. Like by trade, I'm actually a pharmacist. So, I'm that guy that's more of a science guy. So if somebody asks me about sheetrock and laminate floors and painting and cabinets, etc., I didn't know. Like I don't know what I was doing. And so I would be at Home Depot. I remember there were days where I would go to Home Depot and I would just walk around, watch a ton of YouTube videos, talk to contractors, just so I can learn. And because my father once said this to me, and he would always say, "You think any of these guys are smarter than you?" I'm like, "No." Then you can figure it out, right? And it's very true. And so I learned it. I can't say I'm. I would probably put Joey as probably one of the best contractors because I see the kind of work he's done on their social media, do phenomenal work. But I can't consider myself a great contractor, but I would consider myself someone that now understands this. And if I ever were to sub out any type of work, I now know, like, hey, you're charging me too much. Why in the world are you charging me, $500 for something like this that was going to take you 2 hours to do? That's
Yeah.
And so now I know how to control that, right? Before I didn't. They would scare me. I remember that my contractors would say, well, we got to do this, with the beam here. And I was like, oh my God, like this is scary. I'm like, yeah, that's $5,000. I'm like, okay, just get it done correctly, And but now I realize how easy it is and over exaggerated things are.
Yeah.
And so I have confidence and now I'm doing new construction and even with new construction I had my own hurdles, right? Because there's still some learning curve there. And but now I think I can't say I can do everything within construction. I mean that would be a lie, but there's definitely a good foundation and confidence. Yeah. So that's to answer your question. A long answer.
No. This is great. Like you're bringing definitely a lot of value that some people aren't really thinking about.
Yeah.
But now that correct me if I'm wrong. I know we spoke about this offline. You have your own crew,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
How did you go about finding that crew?
So finding good people is very hard.
I want to hear this, by the way.
Yeah, finding good people is very, very hard. They'll leave you to make $5 more a day. They'll be gone. I mean, they'll follow the dollar. So what I did was, it was through a referral, and I got a phone call, and they said, "Hey James, I need work," because a lot of these guys, they'll work very heavy during the summer, but when things slow down, they'll call you, and they know that I have pretty consistent work, and I would try them out. I've had horror stories. Like, I'll give you an example. I had a guy, a very simple job, paint the closet, and he paints 2 of the 3 walls right inside the closet, and I walk back and I'm like, it's these kind of things that you have to deal with, right?
Yes.
They cut the molding incorrectly, and they think that I don't know, and so it's not easy. They have friends also that are good, and typically with people who are good craftsmen in their specific area, whether it's electrical, whether it's any type of framing, things of that nature, you're gonna pay. You have to pay premium. I actually learned that from Joey, because I remember you told me a long time ago that how much you pay your guys, and I said, "Oof, that's a lot," but you get what you pay for, and so I pay my guys very well, and I'm not shy about paying them well, and a lot of it is through referrals. So I don't have a big crew. I have anywhere between 2 to 3 guys working for me, and sometimes, like, if my guy is good that can do everything, I'll just stick my guy in this house that we're talking through now. I had him here for 5-6 weeks, just pounding it out by himself, and but I do use subs. It's almost impossible to get projects done moving quickly unless you have subcontractors. So I do have a very good batch of subcontractors I used to.
Yeah, I think you definitely need a nice selection of people.
Yeah.
That can do very specific things.
Right.
So I use my subcontractors to do very specific things.
Right.
Whereas I have my guys usually come in and just kind of like fill in all the gaps.
Right.
If some moldings are missing, do that. If some, spackling has to be done, do that.
Right.
Finish some painting, install the kitchen cabinets,
right.
things like that.
Right.
Whatever needs to be done, they'll come in and do it.
Yeah, so I'm not, another thing is this too, I'm not on my job sites every day. I come every day, but I'm not here all day. I'm constantly going to my office, looking at houses, and you have to have people that you can trust, but you also have to understand how long things take to do. So if you don't understand that they'll literally be sitting down on their phone for 3-4 hours, when you come back, and you're gonna be like, why aren't things done? It's because they're on their phone, right? Mm-hmm. So for me, I hire good guys, pay them well, and I know they're doing work, and I know how much time things takes to do certain things, and so that's super valuable. And so that's one of the things that helped me a lot as well.
That's awesome. I'm gonna switch gears a little bit on you. So one thing that we haven't really talked about is finding the deals. How are you getting this many deals so that you can keep your workflow constantly going?
Yeah. Especially those that seem like you're like knocking them out in like 5 to 8 weeks.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Relationships are by far the most important thing that you guys can, like, in this business. Relationships are huge. Doesn't matter if it's relationship with the cleaning lady that's doing this house, to the contractor, to the real estate agent. I can't tell you how important it is. Even here, right? Like, it's because we have a relationship. I'm here sitting with you guys, right? So relationships to me is probably the most important thing. A lot of my projects, they come from, I'll be honest with you, a lot of them come from real estate agents. And a lot of people say, oh, MLS, right? But it could be short sales, it could be wholesales. This one was a wholesale deal. And the person that wholesaled the deal to me, she did phenomenally on the wholesale. And I feel like I did pretty well on the resale side on this one too. So it was like a win-win, right? And it's funny that I bring up this relationship and the wholesaler for this. I actually met her again, and Ella as a shout out. But I actually saw her at a Tony Robbins event in Miami, Florida. Oh, wow. So here I am walking around, and now fast forward, her and I are now talking about doing another deal, right? Where it's a 4-family. So I'm a firm believer of relationships. There's no one particular place where I grasp all the deals. But, obviously to get a good deal, you need a distressed sale, right? Yeah. And so typically most of my transactions are distressed sales, whether it's a financial distress, whether they're going through a divorce. The house is a mess. There's just multitude of reasons. But I can't say I get lucky. It's just I think I do a good job of follow-ups. Follow-ups are huge. Literally, if I'm home and literally I have an hour and the TV's on in the background. I'll pop out my phone and I'll literally hit like 20, 30 of the agents that I've worked with in the past. Really? And just, hey, what's up? Just want to say hello. Do you have any deals for me? And I guarantee out of that 20, you're going to get easily 2-3 people saying, hey, James, I'm about to list this house. Hey, James, I got this project. What do you think? And so you want to keep them thinking about you all the time. And so to me, that is the most critical factor to success in this business. You have to have relationships. Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So the next, let's go into the next component, which is financing your deal.
Yeah.
Right. So I know you have not really a unique way to finance your deals.
Yeah.
But kind of how are you financing your deals?
Yeah. So now I'm financing my own deals with my own money. Right. But in the past, when I first started this, I told you the story about how I went all in on my first project and I built capital. But naturally, when you scale, and when we talked about this earlier when we were having lunch, one of the things we talked about was how expensive New Jersey is, right? I mean, you're doing one deal on the cheap side is like 150 to 200,000, especially in my area, right?
Yeah.
In Central and North, and forget about North Jersey, right? It gets crazy.
Right.
You're in the hood at that price.
Yeah, and so if you're minimum 6 figures into the deal, you're going to need capital to kind of constantly push into your projects, whether it's for rehabs, whether it's for new acquisitions. And the way I've done it was actually I went to my friends and family first, right? And the story I was telling you guys, and I'll tell the audience, was one of my closest friends. I consider him a brother. His name is Jason. And I remember I called him and I said, look, man, I'm trying to do this real estate thing. I don't know what the hell I'm doing, but I know I'm smart enough to figure this out. And he goes, how much you need? And I said, I don't know. What can you give? And he said, well, James, cut to the chase. How much do you need? And I said, no, man. 200, 250. He's like, woo. And he's like, all right, no problem. Next day, he overnights a check for $250,000. And I deposit the check, and after it clears, which I didn't think it was going to clear, I remember calling him and saying, his nickname is JJ, and I said, yo, JJ, I don't think this is going to clear, man. Are you sure? And I didn't know he had this kind of money. And he said to me, he calls me by my last name. He doesn't call me James. He goes, Park, it'll clear. Trust me. And I said, okay. It clears, and I have so much money in my bank account now, and I'm blown away. And I find another deal probably within a few days on top of that, and I call him back again. And I don't even know why I went to that well twice, but I did. And I said, hey, look, I got another project. And he said, let me think about it. I just gave you $250,000. And I was like, yeah, but, think about it. And again, next day, I got a check in the mail. And no contracts, no nothing. And I don't recommend that for your audience, but, like I said, he's like family to me. And if I messed up, he would be, even if I have to literally, live on the street to pay him back, I would do that. He would be my number one priority.
Of course.
And
absolutely.
And so, long story short, he, that kind of propelled that financially, right? And then I started getting other family, friends, and I got a lot of corporate people. When I used to work corporate America, these are all vice presidents and senior directors and COOs, and they all said, well, James, you're leaving a cushy $200,000, $300,000 paying job, for what? And I'm like, I'm going to do real estate. I'm going to flip houses. And I think over time they started seeing that I didn't come back to corporate, so I must be doing something.
Yeah.
And I reached out to them, and these are all former bosses of mine. And I said, would you be interested in investing? And they all said yes. And I said, well, I'll keep this really simple. How about we set it up as a note, as a flat rate? I personally guarantee against all of my assets, and I have more than enough assets to cover your money. And we keep this really short, 6 months to a year. You don't need to feel worried that I'm holding on to your money too long. And gradually, one person tells another person, and I was able to get a little bit of a bucket of money now from family, friends, and former colleagues. And so yeah, that's kind of how I finance it. I've been fortunate enough never to use a hard money lender, but that's a phenomenal source of funding. Mm-hmm. I think, especially for anybody who's starting out and don't have that guy that's writing you a freaking check for $500,000, right?
Yeah.
Which is very, it was just by chance, right? I just got lucky with him. But yeah, I think there's a lot of financing options, especially now. Every time I go to any type of event, there's always some funding company that does hard money lending and things of that nature. So it's almost impossible not to get funding. I mean, you won't get funding on a bad deal, but if you have a good deal, you'll find funding. I'm working on a very large apartment building in New Brunswick. It's still very early stages. Yeah. But one of my partners said, "Hey James, I'm a little worried about the funding because this is a roughly $5.5 to $6 million project, A to Z." And I said, "Trust me, if the numbers work, we'll be able to get funding. You don't need to worry." So I'm a firm believer of that.
I agree.
Because people want to park their money in good investments, and if you have a good investment, believe me, people will put their money there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, not only that, but like the investment. If you have no experience, the investment is solely what you focus on.
Yeah.
But if not only that, but the operator, which I'm sure with your track record, most people aren't afraid anymore to, park their money with you.
Absolutely. And what I started doing was kind of putting together these like little short like YouTube vignettes of some of my projects. Because what I find is that seeing is believing, and more often than not, people, when you say that you've built or rehabbed, it's hard for them to really understand that. But when you actually see it, I think that offers a lot more intriguing value, right, to the investors. So that's what I've been doing. I've been sending out these videos to current and potential investors, where I'll say, "Hey, look at a project I did here." Right? And if you want to talk about the numbers, let's have a conversation.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
So, Park, I guess my next question, I know you mentioned a lot about networking, and you mentioned offline about your experience going to Tony Robbins' event this past weekend in Miami. Can you elaborate about how important you think networking is? Yeah. And what you do to network yourself?
Yeah, so to be quite honest with you, I've done quite a poor job networking, but building good relationships and maintaining those, I think I've done a pretty good job. But generally speaking, networking, I feel like I can do a lot better. And I can't tell you how important it is to have your circle. Proximity is 100% power. And who you're around with. So if you're around other successful entrepreneurs, especially within real estate, you need to be around people who are as good, but preferably much better. You want to just suck all their knowledge out and really get to the point where you have the best of the best around you. It's kind of like going to the gym, right? If you go to the gym, you don't want to go and get a trainer that's 100 pounds overweight, right? You want the guy that's like jacked and just clearly knows what they're doing, right? And that's one thing that was a big void in my personal business. I found that I wasn't doing as good of a job surrounding myself with those who are way better than me. I found myself being around my peers where I'm doing better or as good. And I realized I need to be around people that are way better, right? Which is one of the reasons why I actually went to the Tony Robbins event, for personal reasons, but also just to meet other entrepreneurs. There's a ton of entrepreneurs that go to these events. Definitely. And I would tell all your audience members that are listening, super important to network and be in that circle. I think you guys do a phenomenal job with social media. And you mentioned to me that 70% of your deals came from social media, which is mind-blowing to me because I have zero social media presence. And I went to the event. I kid you not, I went to the event and they would ask me, "So what's your Instagram?" "I don't have Instagram." How do you not have Instagram, right? And these are older people than me. These are people in their 40s and 50s asking me about my Instagram. And I learned very quickly how powerful social media can be. And especially hearing your numbers, 70%, that's crazy, right?
Yeah.
And so imagine if I can fuse my personal relationships that I've built with my network of agents and things of that nature with social media. I mean, my business can grow pretty quickly, right? Yeah. And so, I think on my side, I think one of the biggest things that I'm going to really do is be around people who are way better than me, who would crush me, right? Like in this field, right? Like I want to be like the smallest ant in the room, right? So I can be around the best. And B, I'm going to start thinking about how I can involve social media more into my daily routine, I guess. Yeah, because people post every day on social media, and I don't. If you guys look at my social media page, the last time anybody I posted was because somebody tagged me, right? I don't tag myself or post anything on Facebook ever, right? And so that's one of the things that I'm going to definitely strive for. But I can't tell you how important it is that you want to be around people who are as good or ideally much better than you in your field, because that's going to accelerate you, right? And that's one of the things I was talking about was I went to the Tim Bratt's event, which is a commercial real estate event in Tampa before I went to Tony's event. And I'm meeting guys there that are doing way more business than me, and that's what I want to see. That's what I want. That's who I want to talk to, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. How are you doing it? What are you doing? What systems do you have in place that allow you to do this, right? What infrastructure have you built so that I can copy you? Literally, I want, because the framework's already been built. There's nothing wrong with copying, right? Yeah. I did it in high school all the time, right? So there's nothing wrong with copying, and so that's what I'm trying to do now. And then with the Tony event, was more for my own personal growth, but as a part of that event, they have a platinum group, which is very expensive. It's an $85,000. It's actually comes out to about $120,000 to $140,000 kind of circle of people who are just phenomenal entrepreneurs, businessmen, etc. And I'm looking to join that group, right? And so you have to invest. I know with a lot of the newbies, obviously my expectation or anybody's expectation is not for you to invest that kind of money up front, but definitely invest your time with social media, things that I haven't even personally been doing, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think that can be very powerful. And then if you can grow that network, right, once you get stabilized with your business and start joining these masterminds, it really can be very, very powerful. I think local masterminds are great, but I want to be around people who are just crushing it. Like literally where they're flying in private jet. I want to be around people who are way at another level, just so that I can aspire to it. Because if you're not around that, you're gonna get comfortable, and that's one of the issues actually I had was I just got super comfortable. Yeah, I'm like, I don't need to do anything else. I'm good, right? Yeah. But then you realize how much potential you have and the lack of action that I've been having in my life, right? So that's one thing that I would urge a lot of your listeners.
Yeah, no, it's funny you mentioned that, because I forget who said it, but it's like they say to cut your time into thirds or something like that. It's 33% of people that you hang out with, they're at your level, when it comes to business or any type of portion of your life. Sure. 33% is above your level, so that way you could aspire to it, work hard to reach to where they're at, and then the last 33% is those that are, I guess, not, I hate to say the word beneath you, but those that you could help mentor, you could help get bring them up with you. Yeah. So you mentioning the that you want to get to that level with the private jets and everything. Yeah, I'm course. Just all right, I definitely got to hang around you a lot more often.
Well, that's what I aspire to, right?
Same here.
But the one thing that you touched on that I think was very poignant was actually mentoring other people. I think that's so important, right? You want to always give back. I think that's one of the things that is critical to anybody's success is giving back, especially somebody that's really hungry, right? And trying to get into real estate. So I think that's one of the most blessed things that I can do. And if anybody listening is very interested in doing real estate and they're a newbie and they want to intern, you can always contact me directly because I'm actually looking for some newbie interns that really are just hungry. And I'd love to take the opportunity to kind of coach them. And but in this business, as you guys know, you eat what you kill, right? Exactly. It's not a business where you can kind of hang out and play with your iPhone for 3-4 hours and get paid for it. This is a business where you eat what you kill, and if anybody has a very strong entrepreneurial spirit and willing to do that and make those sacrifices to become successful, I would be more than happy to coach them and work with them. And if there's anybody out there that's crushing it that would love to coach me too, I would love that as well, right? Like I mean, like there's always room to get better.
Same thing. I think
exactly.
we're kind of open to both.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
well.
No, it's funny you mentioned that because I was at an event yesterday and the host, he was mentioning how like he actually joined a mastermind recently, and he's gonna be gone next week to Jamaica. You know, great place for the whole week, and you know people would say, "Oh, you're lucky, that's a vacation."
Right.
But no, it's like I'm here to get coached.
Right.
Because he mentioned something that like resonated in my mind recently.
Yeah.
You know, like how there's for the Fortune 500, 94% of Fortune 500 CEOs have a business coach.
Wow, that's phenomenal. That's
And
a huge number.
it makes sense because, you know, if you're in the top 500 businesses in the whole world, you know, then who do you talk to about your problems?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like
who can
everyone,
understand it, right?
Yeah, everyone is technically beneath you because they work for you.
Right.
Who do you talk to build things?
Absolutely.
To get better.
Absolutely. There's nothing wrong with personal development through coaching, and I urge a lot of people to really strongly consider, because you know what it is for me, I didn't realize how much I needed it until I went to actually Tony's event, and it opened my eyes completely. And because I was very arrogant about it, I said, "Hey, I built this business. I'm self-sufficient. I don't need to work, and and I have a infrastructure where I don't really need to do more." And I think I learned very quickly through Tony's program that there's clear gaps, right? And I need to fill those gaps. And how do I go about doing it? And it's. I would recommend anybody, and I'm not a type of person to push people to do certain things, but just being around like-minded individuals, being around coaches and things of that nature, it can really swing your trajectory with your career in a very positive trajectory. So I would strongly recommend it. And then for myself, I was a little bit arrogant about it. I said, I don't need that garbage, like that mumbo jumbo, right? But I was wrong. I needed it more than anything, and definitely surround yourself with winners, right? Like people who are really just out to just kill it. You don't want to be sitting at the top and you being the guy that's mentoring everybody all the time and helping people. You want some of that, but you don't want that all the time. And so I love that 33%. I thought that was phenomenal. Like I'll definitely carry that with me too. Yeah, I thought that was great.
Awesome. So
yeah, pretty cool. So how can people get in touch with you? I know you're very limited on social media.
Yeah.
So you're on Facebook.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
They can reach out to you.
Yeah, I'll give you my email address.
Okay.
That's definitely the best way. It's james@parkrealtyinvestments.com. And but obviously you can reach out to Joey as well, and he can also give you my contact info if need be. But it's james@parkrealtyinvestments.com.
Yeah, and James Park on Facebook.
There's a lot of parks, so
yeah. Make sure you pick the right one. Don't pick
the one that's friends with Joey.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah.
Just I guess one final question.
Yeah.
What piece of advice you'd give to someone who's getting started?
I think it goes back to not being afraid. In real estate especially, is a very scary thing. It's one thing to say, hey, I want to get started by losing weight, right? I mean, you can go out for a run, you can go on a diet. There's the threshold of doing certain things is much lower. But in real estate, it can be a little bit daunting and scary. I personally think for somebody that really wants to start, I think the best way is go to different websites like Bigger Pockets, learn and understand your numbers. Reach out to people like yourselves, right, who are already doing this business, and that's a part of this larger social media platform and network, right? Don't be afraid to ask questions, right? Like ask all your questions. Learn, and I think one thing that's really important is know what your strengths and weaknesses are. Everyone thinks that they're invincible, but there's a lot of weakness that you have.
No weakness.
You have no weakness. Yeah. So make sure you know what your strengths and weaknesses are, so that can carry you through doing your first deal, right? Like, because that'll kind of help you understand what you're good at and what you're bad at, and how you can bring the right people around you to do your first deal. And so I think if it was me, if I was sitting in somebody's shoes that's actually watching this podcast, definitely use the internet as your resource and social media as your resource. That would be probably one of the first things that I would do. And YouTube. Oh my God, YouTube.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh my God, you can learn almost anything on YouTube nowadays. I mean, you can learn how to cook, work out, right? Buy housing. You can almost do anything on YouTube, right? So.
It's true.
Yeah.
You can learn how to be a contractor.
Believe it or not, I learned a lot from YouTube.
You know that's funny? We say that. It wasn't around when I was getting started as a contractor. I couldn't go on and say, hey, how do I
put up sheetrock?
Yeah, install sheetrock. It wasn't around.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
Later on, it was after a few years, but it was too late. I already knew.
Yeah. No, that's very true. You probably can learn to do a lot of great things watching YouTube videos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, all right. James. Thank you for being a part of the show.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
All right.